The most important skill I learned in founding companies was to compartmentalize. And the biggest detriment to learning that as a skill showed up in being a dad. Whether you're a dad now, you aspire to be a dad, maybe you're afraid of being a dad, like I certainly was. The things that I've learned come from not compartmentalizing. And this was hands down the most important skill that showed up in entrepreneurship. If you're a founder of a company, if you're a CEO, if you're an executive, if you're a leader, and you find yourself caught in the maze of compartmentalization, of trying to make everyone happy and trying to be present when you're distracted, this episode today is for you. I want you to know what it's actually like to work through some of the challenges of being present and give you 3 distinct lessons that I've learned 3 years as this company celebrates its 3-year birthday and my son celebrates his 3-year birthday. I'm really excited for the celebration we have planned for him. But as I think back to what this road has taught me, it comes with a lot of hardship and a lot of lessons that I hope you can learn from. Today we've got Marty in the house. We're going to talk about this. And my hope, my intention today is to really allow you to see behind the veil of what it looks like to build a life where business and in my case, fatherhood play together and they play together well. And it has taken me a long time to work on this. I certainly don't have it all figured out, but today we're going to unpack some of those lessons. What are you smiling for, man? You guys.
Well, because I've been around Emerson a lot. And I won't tell the whole story. I just remember him at the pumpkin patch like 2 years ago. I have so many memories of him just in his, he's like you. If people know you, they'll kind of get an idea of who Emerson is. He's just a lot of fun to be around.
He's a lot of fun to be around. Yeah, you know, I'm filled with emotion thinking about 3 years. Been a long road. Been a long road with a lot of challenges in being a dad and challenges being
He's the reason you're out. He's the reason you're out here in Arizona.
He's the reason I'm in Arizona. He's the reason that many of my life changes have taken place. I mean, he has been a phenomenal teacher. He's been a great challenger, but certainly a great teacher. And
he's your mirror.
Yeah, he is definitely the mirror, man. He is definitely the mirror. You know, what I love about sort of taking time to reflect on 3 years and just his life and so much my own change in 3 years. What comes to mind, he has a way of forcing you to be present because, I mean, he's all over the place. He has so much energy and he's curious and he's active and he's engaged, right? He's always engaged in something. Now he'll move what he's engaged with every like 4.5 minutes, but there's a playfulness that
You've grown to like 10.5 minutes. So
yeah. Yeah. And coming up on 3 years also in business, like these two things really got birthed together. And it has become, I think, special to look at how they're so woven together now and what that journey has really been like. And I think most of the men that we coach that are part of our programs that come to our retreats, most of them are dads. And as a part of that, there's always this internal struggle of like how to toggle, right? And this toggling is common and it makes, on paper, it makes sense to toggle. And in some ways, I guess there is a toggle, but mentally to toggle, I think is really dangerous. And everything I learned about compartmentalization that was good in business has been hard and difficult to unlearn and unravel to show up better as a dad.
Because I think compartmentalized can easily be excused away as creating boundaries, but they're really barriers.
I would define the difference is that when you compartmentalize, you're hiding. When you create boundaries, you're de-armoring, right? You're really setting these perimeters up so that you can be better. Like a boundary is really the way I would define a boundary is this protective space so that you can be all in.
I mean, think about you as a father are responsible for setting boundaries for him all the time in order to keep him safe and while still allowing him to be a kid. So you are always trying to balance this reality of letting him be him and making sure he's within this safety, this boundary for himself.
Yeah. Yeah. And at 3, he certainly will test that, right? That's his job. His job is to test those boundaries. And I don't, I think like many dads don't have a clue what's going on. There's no roadmap for this kind of stuff, and every kid needs something different. You kind of learn that. I'm reading, I'm learning, I'm active in my role as his dad, and what it's forced me to do is to communicate better because he requires, and he's so young and requires so much attention in a good way, right? He requires presence. I'll say it that way. Not attention. He requires presence. It's forced me to really get good at communicating. Like, hey, I'm in dad mode. That's what I'm all in on, dad mode right now. And what I have loved about that for me is that initially it felt like I was saying no, and now it feels like I'm saying yes. And that change has been very powerful.
Because there is a no that comes with it. There always is when you say yes, you're saying a no to something. It's he's the priority.
Yeah,
And he has to. When he is awake, he has to be the priority.
definitely. Oh, that kid will like swan dive off of the roof if I somehow let him up there.
No, he'd find a way.
Look, if you're a founder and a father, the challenge that I think exists is like one level, there's setting the boundary, right? Hey, I'm focused on my family today, or hey, I can't answer email right now. And there's a practicality to that I would encourage everyone to explore if you're a founder and a father, where you are actively setting up a team, setting up an org chart, setting up a business, setting up rules of engagement so that when you are with family, with your kid, with your significant other, whoever it is, really, that you're present, right? There's like a felt feeling if you're present with me and I'm present with you. There's a connective tissue there that you can't unfeel, and you can definitely feel when it's not there.
Correct.
Is probably magnified in little ones, at least from my experience. And dude, I just, it's been really difficult to set some of those lines because it forced me to confront all these fears about like, I'm not available, or what's someone going to say if they can't reach me for X amount of time, or what if I don't get it done? And now every time that he and I are together, at least as often as possible, everything gets set to the side. And I just have had to make peace. And rather than compartmentalize, I've had to make peace with this to-do list that's going to remain undone.
And think about all the things you've had to say. It's not important enough to even do it. Like it's probably also, we've had this conversation months ago, that if you're just doing it because you have to get it done, don't do it. It's probably not that important, or as important as you're telling yourself. And if the energy has to go towards him, then it goes towards him, and that's life.
Yep. I think about this because our routine every morning. So I don't see him all the time. We have a split agreement with mom, and that means that when I see him, I really try to prioritize that, and that has also created different routines. Right, I've had to be really diligent about like what are our routines. That's what I can control, and in doing that, we've set up like early morning bike rides. And those early morning bike rides are really interesting because I get to see what it's like to be present. And we just kind of like go on a little loop. We have a couple different loops that we've explored and built. And I'll ask him like, hey, do you want to go the long way? Do you want to go the pond way? Do you want to go this way? I try to steer a little bit of discussion in his decision making, but that bike ride is a great place to be present. It's a great place to just connect. And I could certainly use it to like listen to music or answer calls or listen to a podcast, or I can just be with him. And setting up boundaries with everything, with clients, with friends, with family, about like, hey, this is like really precious time. In a lot of ways, it's very expensive time. Like what it's taken, emotionally, financially, to make sure that I can be a staple in his life has meant that it's expensive time. And I want to be all in on that. And I struggle sometimes with being present across the board. Not even with him, with anything. Like my battery for being present is fixed. And I think that might be true for everybody.
I just want to say, and I'm not a parent. I'm an uncle to several, an uncle even Emerson. And it bothers me when I see parents with their kids and the parents are on the phone. You're not with your child. You're not being I don't care who you are. Get off the damn phone. You do not need to be on that phone. And what are you doing? You're scrolling, you're searching. Why can you not be present to your child? That's the one person that needs you to be present.
Especially that young, right? Like he doesn't know what's on the phone or what it is.
And don't wonder why in 10 years, when you get them a phone, why they're doing the same thing.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Look, it's a struggle because the wiring, right? The compartmentalization that is required to like get lift and start a business and do all the things that this podcast is about getting better at, programs you to like always be thinking about the multiple pods, right? And what goes on in my head is this rattle of you're not doing enough. You could be doing more. That, what's going to get you to the next level, like all these stories about other things. And here's the puzzle that I hope more people figure out sooner. I've gotten to hang around. I put on retreats for families for 4 years, and we would pull very successful families together and run these family development retreats. And in doing that, I got to see patterns, right? I got to see the pattern later with 10-year-old, 13-year-old kids and their families. Also working with thousands of athletes, I got to see parents and families. Different than parenting because I was disconnected, but I got to see the pattern. And the pattern that seems loudest is that when you are trying to build connection, the story is, I'm going to do this first and then I'll build connection. I'm going to build the business up so that then I can go away on vacation. I'm going to work really hard so that then I can create time and space. I'm going to exit my company so that then I can have breakfast with my daughter. And those stories are the hardest thing to unravel, because when you unravel them and you actually look at them, they're all lies.
I'm thinking as you're speaking, and I hadn't thought of this before, like the most important part of a business are your people. The business does not function without the people. Who are the most important people in your life? I would assume you would say your kids, your wife, whoever, your family. So how are you treating them? Because if you're treating them like that, you're probably treating your team the same way.
Yeah. Yeah. If you're unable to be present for your number one, and I don't even think perfection matters. I don't even think you have to have this like remarkable statistic of like, I'm present all the time. Like you're human.
Correct.
I get on my phone. Yeah. I check my phone. Yeah. Okay. I'm a normal person. I think I'm a normal dude. I'm trying to be a really good dad, but I'm a normal dude. And in that is a degree of grace as you figure all this out. But along that line, let's at least have some intention, right? If you're meeting with your COO, meet with your COO, be there. If you're giving your team a lecture about things, be there. If you're talking about vision, be there. If you're at home, be there. Like just be where your feet are. Like what a simple yet effective strategy for how to really change your life. Be where your feet are. Be mindful that there's 1,000 things that will pull you from where your feet are, and deliver on the promise that you're effectively giving by signing up to be somewhere. When you're there, be there.
The when I was a preacher, the key to preaching was if you could preach to kids, you could preach to anyone. I think if you could do anything with kids, you could probably do it with adults as well. Because kids just demand a lot more.
Definitely. Yeah. Yeah. I'm thinking about some of the best memories I had with him, and they were so simple, or they are so simple, right? They're not convoluted. They're not crazy. They're like Legos and blocks or magnetiles, or I took him to like construction site. Yeah, they're here's where my mind goes. I've got to be doing more. That's where my mind goes. And that's the compartmentalization of business. Like, I need to be doing more. There's more to do. There's more tomorrow. There's more the next day. Like, what if this client calls, or what if I have all these challenges? And the reality is that's important to think about. And also as a person and a human being that's trying to not only lift a business that lifts other businesses and lift this child up that I love and care about, and my friends, and like you and all the people in my life that are a part of this mission that I'm on, then don't they deserve for me to set that down for a moment and not have to be more later? Can I just be here now?
Now I'm thinking of it would have been, I guess, like the first Halloween on your own as a single dad at your old place. And I think we were going to take him somewhere, but he was sick. I think he was sick that day. But the two of you dressed up in costume. I don't even remember what you wore that
Oh,
day.
we were both Thor, like
Running around
the
the
helmet with the
kitchen.
wings.
Yes, yes. I still remember that moment. That was it was the first Thanksgiving, first Halloween when you were out on your own.
And here's the cosmic comedy. I would have loved to have some epic experience, right? Because again, that's where my mind goes. My mind goes to like, do it big, send everything big. And every entrepreneur is trapped by the same mentality. Do everything big. And in the pursuit of that, I would have missed the magic. Because the magic was he and I both dressed up like Thor. He had like a stuffed hammer and I had like a plastic one. And we just walked around the kitchen and like bonked stuff. Like, that's what we did. And that I'll never forget that. I'll never forget that.
There is a simplicity in all of it. Because I think you want to create this big experience. Yet the kid is fascinated by an Amazon box still. There's such simplicity, but that his imagination goes there.
Yeah. Yeah. Amazon, Bezos, well, it's not Bezos anymore. Amazon should totally sell empty boxes that just come packaged like regular boxes, but they're empty for kids.
Various sizes.
Yeah. Heck yeah, that would be awesome. I do very much think one of the best lessons he's taught me is how to recognize when presence is depleting, right? How to set up the boundary is certainly one. How to be like, hey, I'm in dad mode. I'm in dad mode. Or if I'm in work mode, I'm in work mode, right? Like, it's okay. That's the toggle that I think is healthy. I'm present. I'm where my feet are. If he's in daycare or he's, we call it school. Like, if he's there, then he's there. And I trust that they're going to care for him. And if he's with mom, then he's with mom. And at the same time, when he's with me, I'm all in. So it's like, let's be all in where we are. And to do that, we have to set up these perimeters, these boundaries of like, hey, I'm in this mode. That's what I'm doing. I'm in the podcast mode. I'm in the studio right now. That's all I'm doing. Right? I'm not on my phone right now. I'm not texting somebody. It's just me and you right now having this conversation. To master that, you also have to learn internally what your limit is and how to ask for help, how to build a village, how to communicate that you're running out of steam, how even communicate that you're not at your best. Right? There are days in business and personal where you just don't have it.
And as you know, I think you already said this, he will test every one of those limits. And will continue to do so because that's what they do. That's what teenagers do. You're supposed to do that because there needs to be something to push again. You at least establish the push against. That will test your patience, but that's you. That's on you. the key, I think, in those moments is how do you respond? Because it's also very easy, and I've seen it. I texted you while I was up at the Grand Canyon. It's very easy to react to everything they do because you don't want them. You have expectations. This is what they're supposed to be doing, and not to react to every blessed thing because they know how to push your buttons.
I would say if there are three lessons and boundaries, really, and protecting and defending sacred time to be present is one of them. The second one is not reacting and responding. Like, and there's a canyon, a Grand Canyon even, of separation between the two things, dude. Like, the idea. So I used to think I never understood the distinction. The reaction is immediate, right? It's impulsive and it's driven by like, I have to solve this right now. And response,
Which is what he does. He's the reactive, but he's three. He's going to react.
right? And being reactive is something that he will have to grow out of. Right? He'll learn the consequence of reactivity on his own. And as an adult, even in business, I see a lot of reaction from leaders. Right? A person's upset, or they didn't get what they want, or they need to talk.
People don't grow out of it.
The world is based on the world right now is loud when it comes to speed. And unfortunately, when you react, you don't get speed. You get rush, and you get mistakes, and you get errors. And I think he's been a great teacher. Not even I think. I know he has been a really good teacher, and the circumstances, a really good teacher for how to wait, interpret, digest, and then be strategic in responding.
You can, I can only speak from my experience. You could speak from you as his father, because if there's one place he loves to test those limits is when you're eating. He tests that limit all the time when you are sitting at that table. All the time. We'll throw something. Well, I don't like this anymore. I don't like this now. It is probably the one time where he does that more than any other.
It's kind of funny. I'm sure anybody with a kid that's around that age will know it. Like, he's like, I want noodles. So I'm like, okay, we'll make some noodles tonight. Like, all good. So I'll make noodles, and he's like, I want pasta. It's so good. It's so good.
Or chicken and steak. I don't want chicken. I want steak. Okay, here's steak, but it's chicken.
Well, what I'm learning, I think through this is that fatherhood really exposed the difference between reaction and responding. Like, I would have been able to grasp the concept, but in his world, everything's now. There is no tomorrow. There's no yesterday. There's no interpretation of time. It's just here and now. So if he doesn't get what he wants, it's just, he's going to react to whatever the stimulus is. If he does get what he wants, right? If he's happy, he's sad. And what I love about him and what I love about this age and just the experience with him is that, like, the emotions are pure and they go away. There's no attachment to them either. Right? He's not like mad and then mad for like 4 days holding a grudge. He's mad in the moment and he moves on. It's beautiful. And what that has shown me, right, is that there's pure reaction on his side, right? It's also clean reaction because there's no like holding on to it, but it's done and then it's over. And
it has nothing to do with it.
Right. Yeah. And he's impulse, pure impulse. And in business, you can kind of mask that you're reactive, right? You can make it look like you're responding thoughtfully, but really it's just a like shotgun shell that gets fired out of whatever emotion you're experiencing: fear, scarcity, excitement, enthusiasm, right? And again, business is predicated on this like speed, but reactivity is highly consequential. I think there's a lot of danger in owners that are so trapped in speed that they forget to respond instead. It's a tricky lens.
I still think it is a lesson. It is a huge lesson of you being a single dad that you had to learn. And I think anyone that experiences great pain, that doesn't know what to do with their pain, very much puts that on everyone else. That becomes I react more, which does not help any situation. It does not de escalate a situation with a kid, with an adult, with whoever. It only escalates the problem. And I do believe it is something that you had to learn much larger than Emerson in this experience, but certainly now in that right as well. That the life has to be about the long game. It has to be about the long game, and you cannot do that when you are reacting to everything. Yeah, and there is a lot that you could have reacted to. A lot.
Yeah, unquantifiable in many ways. You know, there's a moment that comes to mind. He was really upset for something silly. If I remember right, it was because
I laugh through most of it because I have to just like kind of compose myself while these moments are going on and watching them unfold as an observer.
so. If I'm pretty sure that this particular unfolding, every parent can probably relate to. He was upset because his shoes no longer fit. Right, like they like would not go on his feet, but he wanted to wear the shoes, and they weren't even out. They were away in like a charity drawer, and he found them and was like, "Dad, I want to wear these shoes." I'm like, "Oh no, man! Like they don't fit anymore, dude. We can try to put them on. I don't think they're going to fit." He got really upset, and in in the moment, the reactive version of me was very loud. There, like I could feel like, oh man, like he shouldn't do that, or all these stories of what should be going on, and all that I think about in myself is like, you need to do something different, right? You need to do something, Aaron. Like I need to do something different. And I took a deep breath and I just kind of got down in his level, and I think I said like, I know it's really hard if like I know you like these shoes. It's like these are my soccer shoes. They're not soccer. They're just like regular running shoes. And to pause in that moment, and she's like, "Would you like a hug?" And like he gave me a hug. It was fine. It was great. But I look back at that moment later, and what what I notice is that I never learned that young. I never learned to have like a safe. At least I can't remember a really safe emotional space to just have whatever I was dealing with. Definitely, maybe not later in life. And I was really proud of being able to set down the like urge to have a reaction, to have an answer, to have a next step. I didn't I didn't know what to do, so I did nothing. And if there is wisdom in that idea, that is the basis of stoicism. That's the basis of like real emotional intelligence. Is do nothing, just wait. And that wait might be 3 minutes or 30 minutes or 3 days. But I think there's so much pressure on like, it has to be done right now that we miss the moment to wait.
Yeah, and I actually think there's a deeper piece of wisdom in there listening to you that I would say it in a different way. That there are moments, even on your team with adults, where you just have to be there because they are hurting. And if you show up as the fixer, as the one who's rushing, the one who's reacting, they will never open up to you again. They just won't. Because it's not just about waiting, it's about being. And that child knows that you are just being there.
Definitely one of my better moments. You know, the connecting thread to business is important. And I like the way you bridge that. What what I think is hard in business as a leader, as an owner, as a CEO, whatever your title is and whatever your structure is, it, it it can feel really scary when someone, an adult, is upset in business because the compartmentalization box slams over you. And you're like, no, I'm the CEO. And then you're not a human. Then you're not talking to someone that's going through something or wants to talk it out. You are defensive, antagonistic in some ways, and like overly prescriptive. I'm going to tell you what to do, or hey, let me give you the answer right now.
That is that is why it's might be one of my gratitudes, my background in ministry, because the expectation was, yeah, there was priest expectation, but number one was you're showing up as a person. I don't have to work at that. I could just show up as a person. And I was the executive director. I was the pastor. I had all the titles, but number one was I was human.
Well, if there's a takeaway from this lesson that I would pass on to anybody, it's that it doesn't matter whether it's your 3-year-old or your 32-year-old social media manager or your 55-year-old, back-end programmer or your software designer that's 17. They want your eyes. They want the ability to connect with you as a person, as a human. And if you're stuck in the compartmentalized version of a leader, you will miss the window to not only get the best out of them, right? And support them in becoming their best, but you will miss it for them to tell you there's a problem, for them to confront an issue and ask for help. You'll blunder all of that.
Yeah, let me put it a different way in my experience and using your language. If in that moment you want to compartmentalize something, this is what you compartmentalize. You compartmentalize your own shit. Put your own shit aside, because that's all that is. That's all the baggage that you're bringing in that situation, and that's the way you be human to that person, by compartmentalizing your own shit. And that, I think that's what gets in the way often.
Yeah, for sure. I had a lot of experience with
Am I allowed to curse on this show? Is that allowed?
what's that? Well, it's over now. That shit sailed. I mean, ship sailed. Uh, I remember there was a season where I had a lot of my team that was dealing with personal issues in school. So they were girls, and they were, I think that team, they were probably like 15 or 16, and a lot of stuff was going on, right? And what would happen often is the girls would, I would be able to pick up on like something's wrong. So I would ask them like, hey, is everything okay? And they would share. And then depending on the situation, I might have to tell the parents, right? Like, hey, this is what I hear is going on. Or, but I had to be really delicate with like the trust that I had built with the players. And in communicating with the parents, what would often come up is, I can't believe that she talked to you about that and not me.
Yeah, right, yeah.
And I was like, well, so I had to have these difficult dialogues often, not really about even their daughter, but like in what was going on. And I said, well, I think the fact that I'm disconnected from this allows me to show up with way more patience and grace. And I'm not listening to change anything. I'm just listening to figure out what's going on and help them figure out the solution. And the kids in general, but specifically the girls that I coached for nearly a decade over multiple teams, like they taught me a lot. They taught me a lot about being a dad that I didn't even know that I was learning. And what I think business owners could benefit from the lens of parenthood is that most people can figure out their own problem. Most people and really don't want to ask for help. So the way they ask for help is they ask you to listen. And if they ask you to listen, this is the wisdom. The way they ask you for help is they want you to listen. And if you don't listen, you get one try and they will never ask you to listen again.
I don't care who you are. And I've spent years working with teenagers. I'm still blown away by what was divulged to me. And then I felt some responsibility to go when I would preach on Sundays to speak to a lot of those experiences that I had. Because obviously it's parents that are sitting in seats. And whether you like it or not, parents have judgment, they have expectation, they have all these things that they bring on that you might not say those things, but those kids are aware of those things. They feel those things. And it has nothing to do with you as their parent. That is where they are at in life. Be grateful that they are willing to speak to someone and someone is willing to listen to them without what and that was the main thing I learned working with kids was I could not show up as a parent. I could not be a parent in those moments. Correct. And still believe that's why I was effective at what I was able to do.
You know, I I can think back to a very distinct moment. I took him ice skating class. In the first class, he got on the ice. So I get him. We go in this. Okay, this is great. I learned the most important lesson about me watching him ice skate. So I get him helmet, skates, like I'm doing the whole thing, bundled up. He's got gloves on, bubbly, smiley, but there's a lot going on. There's kids everywhere. It's madness. Even my head's going nuts because there's so much commotion. He gets on the ice and have everyone stand there. And I'm even floored that he's standing. Like, I'm impressed. He looks back at me, and the next 3 minutes, all he does is cry. So they have a lot of instructors, and they come over and they try to help him. And then they bring him to the edge, and he's crying. So I give him a big hug. And in that moment, I watched myself have two different thoughts. One was this entire diatribe about my history as an athlete, and like, is he ever going to be like, all these stories are just spinning in my head. Like, is he ever going to ice skate? What if he never learns to ice skate? Like, what does that say about me? And the whole series of stories was about me.
Ice skating in Arizona where it's 120 degrees.
Indoor. And I just watched this spin of like, well, what do we do about next class? Like, what if it's like this for 8 classes? Or what if it's like this for 100 classes? Like, dude, it spiraled so out of control. And then I had to just compartmentalize, like to what you said. I had to put my shit aside about my expectations and what to put on him. And I just gave him a hug. And like, we walked outside and I just held him and we just watched a little bit of the class and then we left. And that moment of like, oh, I understand now. Cause I used to be the receiver of all this, right? As a coach. Like, I used to hear all these stories from parents, like thousands of them. And I'm like, okay, I understand it. I was really proud that I didn't react, because the next week when we went back, he got on the ice and dude, night and day difference. No fear, no panic, looked up, smiled, giggled, laughed, fell. Amazing. And if I had let me interject my own story over top of his experience, I would have ruined the whole thing for him for who knows how long.
In those situations, I'm just kind of curious because I've heard this before, I think. Are you aware of or kind of fear the judgment of every other parent in the room?
Totally. Yeah. And that's the competitor in me, right? That like, he's got to be the best kid on ice. Who can't? What? None of it makes any sense. But the competitor in me, right? The entrepreneur in me, the one that's fierce and ambitious and driven is like, dude, he's going to get on the ice and he's going to do oh my God, he's going to triple axle his way into the, like, what? And just, I have had to work really diligently to exercise awareness around these ideas and be able to just push them to the side, like in a meditative maneuver, to not let that change my choice. And dude, he's not, like, he's 3 today. Who cares?
I still think the great test will be that he's going to hate soccer. That'll be the real test for Aaron.
I might take that a little personal. Yeah. Well, thanks, man. I don't know if I can compartmentalize that one.
I play like baseball or something
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, and I'm like, "Oh, I'm so bored."
because soccer is such an exciting game to watch.
Hey, man, if you know the game, you know the game. That said,
Baseball people would say the same thing.
no, I think baseball people are like, "No, I go and eat hot dogs and drink beer." Uh, well,
Next year, we will have to take him to like a spring training game out here.
yeah, definitely, dude. Yeah, I think that'll be great. Yeah, I wanna introduce him to a lot of things, and, like, this idea of not reacting and responding is gonna be a really important skill, and I think it translates directly into the boardroom, it translates into your leadership, and, just to kinda put a bookmark on point number 2 here, the second lesson that I've really learned, it's that when things are going downhill as a leader, when things are difficult, I learned this in COVID too, the way that you respond in that moment can change someone's future. And I've learned it through really hard moments. I learned it on the soccer field. I learned it in college on that soccer field. I learned it coaching. I learned it leading. I learned it in workshops. I mean, I've been in workshops and had somebody drop the most tension building comment in the first 5 minutes of a workshop of like a 2-day retreat, and had to just stop and be like, okay, whoa, do not react to this. And I had to give everyone else a moment in a 35-person retreat to just be like, hey, we're going to navigate this, and we're going to navigate it gently. And that idea of gentle leadership, that idea of responding over reacting, has served me in so many cases, but I don't know that I've really understood the value of it until Emerson. Like he's revealed the value of just be here. Your presence is okay.
Yeah, I'm thinking to myself, especially in those moments, if your team, if the people that are around you are reacting, you better not be reacting, or the ship will sink quickly. So I think it's important to notice that. I mean, he or not, we just told you this recently. Like if you're in scarcity mode, I cannot be in that same space because there has to be some kind of balance to that, or we get swallowed up into the vortex.
It's a ground, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, third lesson from 3 years, both in this business and as a dad and with Emerson, I think is that if I want to perform better, what really matters is that I'm more all in. And I'm probably all in less frequently, but I'm all in deeper. That and we can just title this like presence. That your presence is what makes you a strategic, an emotional, and a leadership boss. Like that's what makes the difference. Uh, for some reason, I think of like the old Godfather movies, and like if you watch those movies again with this lens, the movies will feel different for sure. What made that guy such a G, a total uh, representative of capability, was just how present and centered he was. Right there was no reacting. There were boundaries like, hey, you can't get to me. Hey, like I don't deal with that. You deal with that. Like there was all those things in place because his centeredness, right? His presence is what made him so powerful. And when a person would go meet that, anybody, like any gangster movie, any of those, when you walk into that space, his gaze is on you. He is locked in on you, and there's nothing else in that moment. And there's something powerful about presence that gets subverted in our culture. I really think it gets subverted in parenting too. It gets avoided because it's difficult, and it gets chopped up because it's uncomfortable, but it is It's the superpower that will make you find your edge.
I think about that. I never thought I'd be talking about mobsters and gangsters, but the it would be easy to look at them and say, well, they're not doing anything. But their doing is very different. Because they're being present. Being present requires a lot of energy. It requires a lot to just be there. Like they are doing something. It's just not what we're used to doing that produce. They burn out. But it's a different kind of doing.
And here's an interesting way to think about it. That level of presence is incredibly intimidating. Right? I mean, the whole thing is that you are putting so much of your body, your soul, your heart into the conversation, or in the gangster mobster world, like the threat, that the other person is like, oh man, this guy's really this guy's really serious about this. And I think it points to a critical assumption that more leaders would do well to yield to, and that's that your presence is what makes whatever you're about to say more powerful. So if you're you're sharing a message with the team and you just write an email out, you don't need to be present for that. If it's uncomfortable, you don't need to be present for that. And delivering hard news as a CEO is incredibly hard. It sucks. It sucks a lot. It sucks to be the center of attention for really difficult questioning, inquisition, critical feedback, all those things. It sucks to be there. And to be present will change your company.
Yes, I think what it does, I'm thinking of difficult, like if I've had to fire someone and I've had to fire people, I still show up being present. I know that's important to be present in that moment. That person might be upset, and they often are. They'll react. They'll do whatever they do. However, long term, they will know that they were seen, they were heard, they were valued because you were present. And whether we like it or not, that's what people need. That's what humans
It's how you get next level performance from your team too. Like not only on the way out, but if you can't give them anything on the way out, you definitely can't give them anything when they're there. You know, it's like, if you show me how you are in a tough moment, I can really understand your character. Because the tough moments define or reveal, I suppose, everything that you're about. I think in some ways, the ability to be present is like the major flex. I especially nowadays, when I'm with someone that during our conversation, there is not a single need for either of us to touch our phones, that's when I know that we got something really special going on.
I think it's also with adults, but I maybe with kids as well. It's also the only way. We all know people listen and they're thinking about what they're going to say next. The only way that you are responding to what that person is saying, not reacting to something else, is by showing up, is being there, is being present in that moment. Because you're not listening at that point. You're thinking about your own thought because your thought's more important than what this person's saying. I think just showing up and being present in that way is, that person is seen, that person is heard, that person is valued.
Yeah, true flex, making someone else feel seen, heard, and valued. Right. That's leadership.
If you're worried about yourself in that situation, that's the problem.
And look, for anybody listening, it's easy to tune into this conversation and think it's intangible. And there might be a situation where you've got to listen for a long time.
For the monk in the monastery.
Right. Yeah, this is like very woo-woo. There might be a situation where you listen for 20 minutes. I have plenty of stories about this. You listen for 20 minutes. And then you got to have the tactical piece, right? Or you set that up later, or you come back to it, or what have you. you probably have to do that as a CEO, right? If someone comes in and is like, hey, my mom's going through this stuff, or, my dad's sick, or all that, shut the fuck up and listen. Just sit there with them. Then have your moments, be present with them. And then you might have to set up and frame a conversation for, well, we need to talk about this. Like, I think it's important.
A lot of CEOs don't even have to. I know, even as a priest, I had an HR person that did a lot of that work. I was given the capacity to just be there with that person in that moment. The parameters to this and time off and all, someone else can do that kind of work. The CEO doesn't need to do that kind of work. The CEO could just be present to that person in that moment. Because that's someone else's job at that point.
And ideally, right, you have a team in place. For a small company, some of the ones we work with, you might not have that. I still think it's strategic to be present first and then pause and either structure that time separately or come back to it. But there is a practicality that sometimes you got to talk about this. Like, hey, we need to talk this through. And here's the frame I would use, right? In a situation like that. Hey, I appreciate you sharing. Thank you so much. I'm here for you, and I'm grateful to be here. Let's set up another time to talk about logistics and all the things that matter, because there are some logistics that, like, we can't just give you indefinite time off or like pay you for 6 months while you're not here. But I want to be here. I want to support you. And so there is a practicality to this that I want to address, that because you can listen to these things and be like, well, that would work if I had, 500 people underneath me, or that would work if, and come up with all these excuses not to do it. And someone needs you to do it. So there's someone in your life, I'm sure, that needs you to be present that you're not present for. And by no means, Marty, you can certainly stand on this testament on your own, but I think you and I know each other well enough to know that this is our truth. None of this conversation means that Marty and I, specifically I, do this perfect, do it right, or get it right all the time. The objective is to demonstrate the ideal and to have a conversation about what matters so that you can bring awareness to your skill level, so you can be more mindful going into them.
I'm going to put it this way in the example that you gave. If your first thought is, I have to show up as a CEO to this person who's going through something, you're already getting it wrong. You show up as a human being. You are a human being. That person is a human being. You be a human being to that person. They could give a rat's ass whether you're a CEO at that point. It means nothing.
Yeah. And if you can put yourself on their side of the table, that sucks for them way more than it sucks for you.
Correct.
There's something about being present that Emerson has taught me that is remarkable. I'm so grateful. He's a phenomenal teacher. And if I connect these three things, right, the three things he's really taught me, you got boundaries, like, how do I make sure that I can be all in? You've got not reacting and responding. So rather than, now that I've set the boundaries, I can experience something and that be enough. And then beyond that, I can be present. And all three of these stack together, right? This to me is almost an outline of what emotional intelligence is. And when CEOs lack emotional intelligence, they probably lack all three. There's no boundaries. They're texting their team at like 11 o'clock at night. They're answering emails at all hours. They have no time off or on because it's just a big mix. More than likely, they're reactive all the time. And I bet their team would say that they're not present. Like, they're never where their feet are. And certainly,
and your team is probably people that just need a paycheck.
Yeah, you can't attract big talent with that.
Never.
Yeah, you can't. You're not a leader. You're a manager.
You're not even a manager at that point.
He said it, not me. I think in all of these positions, I'd really love to hear from you if you are a new dad or a seasoned dad. How these things how fatherhood has taught you business lessons. Now, the one lesson that business taught me that is really helpful right now in business is that, or really helpful in fatherhood, is that business taught me how to play the long game. Business taught me how to have a bad day and still show up. Business taught me how to not be sure if you're winning or losing. Business taught me how to fight for something that matters, how to stand for something that you believe in. It taught me how to build a team. It taught me how to foster an idea and a vision, right? Business taught me all that. And that's really helpful because in parenthood, you don't know if you're winning or losing. You really don't know week over week if it's working. Like you don't have day checklists of, well, this was a good day because you could do all the things right and it still not go your way. And these two things, founding a company and fatherhood, have such an overlap, such a dynamic that I'd really love to hear what stands out for you. What has fatherhood taught you about business? What has business taught you about fatherhood? Maybe there's an episode 2 on this that we could go into with anybody that's tuned in, because there's a lot here. And he's only 3, so I'm sure he's going to teach me a lot for a long time.
Of course he is, because he's the mirror. I mean, I will add, just listening to you there, and I'll say it. Anyone that's listening will never know how much you've had to fight for him as well. And because most parents, it's assumed. If there's assumptions that are built into the system, you've had to fight. And in some sense, business may have helped set you up for what you've had to do for him. And that kid, knowing that kid, he'll be grateful forever as he learns who you are, your story, and what's brought you here. He will also learn how to fight in that way for what's important.
Get that. It has been a wild ride. I'm glad for all the lessons. I'm glad for the response.
The laughs, the joy. The joy might be the joy.
Yeah, the moments. Like I'm really grateful for the moments, because it is a job, right? And I treat it like a job, meaning that I show up when I'm tired. I show up when I'm not. I show up when I'm excited. I show up when I'm not. Like that's how entrepreneurship is. Like you don't get well, I don't feel good today, so like I'm just not going to do it. You do it. You show up, and you keep showing up, and you keep showing up, and you keep showing up, and that was a great chronicle for me to be able to withstand this and go through some of these challenges, and also to show him, right, how to build something that he cares about and stand for something he cares about. And you fight for what you love. That's what you do.
I still remember coming for his birthday last year, and your parents were there. And I think I was carrying in groceries for the party. And this is him as well, just coming over to help me carry in the bags. It was up for his party. He met me at the door.
Yep. I'm excited to see him. Excited to celebrate him.
He has a special place in my heart.
Yeah, dude. He's a good kid. You know, it's cool to have built a village, right? A little group of people that's sort of like my Arizona family when it comes to him. And I think that the joy of raising him is also directly proportional to the joy of allowing others to play a key role in that. So there are several others, probably a dozen other people that have had a really big influence in that and in me. And dude, it's a really cool moment to reflect on where he's at. You know, he's still too young to like, the birthday thing will be cool. It'll be cool to celebrate him. I'm sure he'll love it. And for right now, like we're going to do that and do it well. But it's a very reflective moment for me, for sure, to look back on these last couple of years.
Makes me smile.
Yeah, definitely. If you're a dad and a founder, I'd love to hear where things are. I know there are lessons that apply to both. And even if you're not, you can certainly learn the same kind of lessons from being an uncle or kids, like volunteering for kids programs or coaching. You know, there's a lot of different ways that you can learn it. But kids are phenomenal teachers. I learned way more from coaching girls soccer than I ever taught. And now certainly parenthood is doing the same thing. I appreciate you tuning into this. This has been a really interesting edge of a conversation. And I hope that you're able to work on these three things, right? You're able to work on boundaries and setting work aside so that you can be present with family, friends, loved ones, and vice versa, that you can also set that aside so that you can focus and go all in on your business when it's appropriate, that you can really understand the nuance of reaction versus responding and build the awareness around how to respond and how to pause and find space in that pause. And then beyond that, to be present and to really find your fortitude, find your strength, find your direction, and be present in it, and let people know your strength by the value of your time with them. And
part of I was just thinking, part of that presence, I've learned this just being around nieces and nephews, is allowing them to be kids frees you up to be a kid as well. And there is something very freeing about that experience when you don't force them to be little adults, because they allow that child in you to come out as well.
Yeah, when you're not like, no, the magnet tiles need to get stacked better. And you're just like, all right, knock it down. Here we go.
Red, green, blue, black.
Yeah. Yeah. This is not structurally sound.
Right. Do you remember do you remember when he first got them? I used to build those towers so high, and he would like get so excited to smash it.
Yeah. Yeah. We would count down 1, 2, 3, and he would run and then just tackle the whole tower. Yeah. Fond memories of magnet tiles, man. They're phenomenal, dude. They're way better than Legos. Okay. Thanks for tuning in. If you got some from this episode, leave us a review. Send me a comment on Instagram. I would love to hear what stands out to you. I hope that you have a very powerful day, that you build a big vision that doesn't require you to compartmentalize your company and the company that you keep, and that you are able to really grow beyond your compartmentalization and tactical nonsense where you can't show up for your team, can't show up for your people, and everyone feels you checked out. I've been that guy. You don't have to be that guy. Let's make some change and show up better for our people. Have a great day. Keep living in your vision. See you guys.